Begin by safely raising and supporting the vehicle and remove the rear wheels. I have moved a bunch of components out of the way for photographic purposes only. You do not need to remove anything other than what is listed in this video. Here you can see where the shock mounts to the chassis, red arrow. The mounting hardware is inside the cabin area. The shock mounts to the lower section of the wheel carrier between the wishbone and indicated by the blue arrow. The upper shock mounts are located at the rear corners of the cabin under the carpet, red arrows. Begin by lifting the rear shelf carpet piece up in the middle, blue arrow. There is nothing holding in place but friction, and you may have to lift a little hard. Fold the carpet out of the way and lift the shelf part of the carpet and remove the hard foam piece out, red arrow. If your vehicle has PASM, you will have a wire coming out from the top of the shock. Gently separate the wiring connection. Use a 13mm deep socket and remove the two front nuts, red arrows. You will need to use a wrench to get to the rear, blue arrow, as there is no room for a socket and ratchet. Once loose, move to the outside of the vehicle. The shock mounts to the lower section of the wheel carrier through the wishbone control arm. You will need to separate the wishbone from the wheel carrier, blue arrow. Do not disturb the area where the wishbone mounts to the crossmember, red arrow. This sets the camber for the rear, and if you move this, you will need to have the alignment done. Use a 16mm and 18mm wrench and remove the nut and bolt for the wishbone. Move the wishbone out of the way so you can access the lower shock mount indicated by the red arrow. Use a T55 torque to hold the bolt from the inside mount, blue arrow, and using a 27mm socket, remove the nut, red arrow. Do not lose this nut. It has a sleeve built into it and is a special order if you misplace it. The suspension is torqued with it level to the ground, so you will need to pry the shock off the mount. It will expand when doing this, red arrow. Do not pinch your fingers. Note the orientation of the top perch for reinstallation, red arrow. Do not attempt to turn the shock until the long mounting studs have cleared the chassis. If you have PASM shock, use care with the wire that will be attached to the shock. You can now safely and carefully pass the shock out through the bottom. Installation is the reverse of removal. Torque the upper mounting hardware to 46 Nm or 34 foot-pounds. Use new hardware and torque the wheel carrier to wishbone hardware to 90 Nm or 67 foot-pounds and then an additional 90 degrees. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out another video in this series.